Alright, our next set of films of the early part of 2011 starts off with The Way Back. And there's something really loving about this film as a portrayal of a group of rough men escaping from a Stalinist gulag in 1941 during World War II, obviously. This is the latest from director Peter Weir, who of course directed a really great film, The Truman Show, many years ago. And has also directed many other good films. And this is about a group of men who fled a Siberian prison and trekked thousands of miles to safety in India. And whether it's true or not, they really don't try to portray it that way, but this is just a portrait of desperate, determined people surviving anything they can. The audience knows that in that a number of escapees, only a few will survive. So obviously we know some of them are going to die. I know it's not a laughing matter, but that's just the cliches I think some of these war films fall into. This isn't what I would call a brilliant film, but there's really a big likability to it. Jim Sturgis does really well here. Meets a fellow prisoner in his first days in the camp with an escape planning hat from us. And then as the viewer, you expect this man will be a part of the eventual escape, but instead he is a description of another prisoner, a spiritual vulture who feeds on other people's hopes. Ed Harris here also lends a lot of substance as he does to any movie he does. As a hard-bitten American, and also Colin Farrell is just really aggressive here as a Russian gangster. He really has a lot of energy in this film. It's good to see him still sustaining the momentum he started sustaining with the 2008 film In Bruges. I say if you haven't seen that one, I suggest you check it out. Sturgis is really steady, and he's the main, I guess, the moral focus of the film, I guess. And Harris had the best performance here, and Farrell's right up there as well. There's a lot of good actors here, but at the same time, they just kind of fade into the background, I think, for the most part of the film. But this film, if you're interested in these type of movies, those war stories, war-type films, World War II, you will enjoy The Way Back, and really, you feel it. You feel this film, too, and I give it 3.5 stars out of 5. The next up is The Mechanic. This is a quick, capable, and thoroughly bloody action film starring Jason Statham. He's Arthur Bishop, a seasoned professional who kills people for a living. And Ben Foster plays a hothead trying to avenge his father's death. This film is basically what you're going to get from a Jason Statham action film. A Jason Statham action film is what you're going to get. Anything's there, the chases, the shootouts, the villains. But you know what, there's enough here to make it likable. And again, they do overdo it, but in a good way. There's overdoing it, and there's overdoing it, is what I think Jason Statham's Crank films kind of fell into the category of. Statham's always been a guilty pleasure of mine ever since he really hit it big in North America with The Transporter. And since then, I've generally liked most of his films, with the exception of the Crank films, and this one is no different. This is just another fun movie. I'd say Statham is fastly becoming the I guess you'd say the Steven Seagal of his era, but actually a much better actor, I have to say. In terms of actual acting ability, Statham does sustain more than Seagal ever did. But I'm just saying in terms of his quality of his movies. I think Seagal had a lot of good movies back in the late 80s, early 90s, but then just kind of fell into complacency as time went on. I hope Statham doesn't do that. He's been really good movies like The Bank Job, where he goes beyond what he's used to, and I think he has a good career still ahead of him. So I give The Mechanic 3 stars out of 5. Right, next up is The Rite, sort of demonic, the demonic exorcism type films, spirituality, religion, and whatnot, have been a big craze ever since The Exorcist was re-released in theaters a while back. And you're really not going to have anything here. This is boring, silly, and just unscary. And despite Anthony Hopkins' best efforts, it's just a horrid rehash of The Exorcist, and I really got sick of this film. Anthony Hopkins is just a fine specimen in terms of acting, and he gets saddled with this crap. I don't understand how he fell into this. And I gotta say too that another one that the young priest, quote unquote, it centers on, Colin O'Donoghue. He is just unbelievably boring in here. He's not. I don't find him to be very good at all. It's nice to see Rutger Hauer here appearing in this film. I hadn't seen him in anything major in a while, so it's good to see him. But this film just was another waste of time. It's it's another misfire that should be stay buried in the beginning of the year, and it'll probably be forgotten until it's in a 5 for $20 bargain bin at HMV. And it was, I don't know what more to say about this film. I give it 1.5 stars out of 5. Now you people see what I'm talking about in January and February. Next up is Animal Kingdom, and this movie is really just remarkably gritty and gut-churning, and it's just awesomely acted. It takes a common enough device for a crime thriller, a protagonist who enters an underworld and filters it for us, but it never turns sentimental. It never loses its focus. And this is about a film about a family of course, of underworld workers, and the most scariest performance, I think, is a character who is dubbed as Mama Smurf, I guess you could say, or Grandma Smurf, sorry, Jackie Weaver. She got an Oscar nomination for this film, and it's well warranted, and she's just downright like calculating in this film. Just everything she does is just like you're blown aback. But she's just a tough, hardcore mother, and you know I really enjoyed it about this film. Again, this is a film that just doesn't lose its focus, and I'm really glad that even the lesser parts of this film, there are a few, really still lend something to at least what's happening, even though they're not as intriguing as some of the other parts. So this one, I give Animal Kingdom 4 stars out of 5. Next up is The Roommate. This movie was a lot better 20 years ago when it starred Bridget Fonda and Jennifer Jason Leigh in Single White Female. That movie was a lot better. It's actually a really good movie. I suggest you check it out if you can, if you want an alternative to this horrid junk, which is just a wet dream for teenage boys about two really good-looking women living with each other. Whoop-de-doo. This is just another waste of time. I'm not even going to really go that much into it. Basically, a girl gets a roommate turns out to be psycho, boyfriend, yeah, 0, big fat 0 this one gets, not even worth mentioning. Again, I'll probably even forget it by the time I do my 10 worst at the end of the year. And finally, and our quick recap here, is Sanctum, a 3D action thriller from executive producer James Cameron. This follows a team of underwater cave divers through a treacherous expedition of the largest, most beautiful, and least accessible cave system on the face of the earth. But when a tropical storm forces them deep into the caverns, they must fight raging waters, deadly terrain, and creeping panic as they search for an unknown escape route to the sea. And this film looks good, it's well shot. I wouldn't have said anything less from a film that James Cameron slapped his name on. But again, there's just nothing here in the way of plot, characters, or dialogue. And the action scenes are just too few and far between. I give it 2 stars. Well, that is it for our quick recap. Now, get ready for the full reviews.